Summer is slowly but surely coming to an end here in Germany, and during my morning walks there is a noticeable hint of fall in the air. I haven't filmed a knitting podcast in quite a while. The last one was way back at the beginning of June, so I thought today we could just get cozy, sit down together and chat about what I've been knitting over this summer. By the way, if we haven't met before, my name is Annika and I'm coming to you from Germany. I am a natural yarn dyer as well as an avid knitter, and I basically love everything that is related to the fiber arts. Let's get started. Let's start with my favorite make of the summer, and it is the top that I am wearing right now. This is the Anker Tee by Petite Knit. And I knit this one up so quickly because it was so enjoyable, and I was also really looking forward to being able to wear it over the summer, which I did quite a lot. So let me think. I made the smallest size and I used a 100% cotton yarn to knit it. The yarn I used is from DMC and it is called Natura Just Cotton. And this is the colorway 106, also called light blue. So I knitted this piece up very quickly and started wearing it, and I wore it for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, quite a lot, until I decided to unpick the hem and redo it because it was like just the tiniest bit too short for my liking. It was looking completely fine, but I knew that if I would just lengthen it a couple of centimeters, maybe 5 centimeters or 2 inches, that I would enjoy wearing it even more. So that's why I just unpicked it last week and reknitted the hem. So this was actually a bit more work than I had originally anticipated because the pattern calls for an Italian bind-off, which is a sewn bind-off, and that takes quite some time to do. So it also took some time to unpick and I was getting a bit frustrated, but I did it anyways. And then I did not want to go through the process of doing the Italian bind-off again, so I opted to do a different hem instead, and I'm so happy with how it came out. I'm going to show you a clip of the hem so that you can see. So what I decided to do is just knit stockinette stitch until the length that I wanted, and then I knitted 1 round of purls and continued knitting in stockinette but with a smaller needle size to be able to fold this piece on the inside and then sew it down in the end. Then I just bound off loosely and simply sewed it down with a very simple sewing stitch. Unfortunately, I ran out of the original yarn, or the colorway at least, so I had to use a different color for parts of the inside, but that's completely fine. You cannot really tell if you look at the top. One thing I do find is a bit noticeable at the moment is where I unpicked the hem and started knitting again. So the yarn that I still had in stash, the leftovers, are just a bit more intense in color than the rest of the top that has been worn and washed several times. I hope this is going to get closer in color over time. I do expect this is going to be the case, but I think it's so funny that you can already tell the difference, even though I have just worn this top for less than 2 months now. But anyways, it's probably a lot more visible in camera. In real life, I'm completely fine with it, and I absolutely love this pattern, and I can highly recommend that you give it a try if you are thinking about knitting an Anker Tee for yourself. That's also something I wanted to talk about in general. I mean, it's so great to finish a garment and being able to wear it, and I totally get that, but if something doesn't really fit the way that I was hoping for, and if I know that this is just going to be a minor alteration that I have to make, I would much rather go back, frog part of the garment and do it again instead of, putting on these pieces that you just know that are not 100% right, even if no one else is going to notice it. I really want to strive to create a handmade minimal wardrobe where every piece is something that I truly love, rather than having lots of handmade pieces that are only, I don't know, 70 or 80% okay, and make me not feel as comfortable when wearing them. Speaking of which, I have another summer top that I recently finished that I also have to undo part of and reknit, and it is the Ride as Rain by Jamie Hoffman. Let me give you a look, because it is a very beautiful pattern. So it has this V-neck in the front and then this lace panel that's running down the middle. And I absolutely loved to knit this. I think I made it in less than 4 weeks, which is fast for me. And I also really like the color. This is a cotton linen blend. This is a linen from Nak Yang Yarn, which was very kindly gifted to me by the company. And the colorway is called Burgundy. This is a 51% linen, 49% cotton blend, and I absolutely love it. For one, this also is a bit too short for my liking. So this is supposed to be a cropped top, but personally, I do not really feel comfortable when I have the feeling that my belly is going to show when I put up my arms. So I usually just lengthen the cropped tops just a couple of inches or centimeters in order to, just feel more comfortable in them. And although I think I did lengthen this top a bit compared to what was indicated in the pattern, it is still a bit too cropped. Unfortunately, this is again can you see that? An Italian bind off. So it's going to be a pain to unpick, but I'm definitely going to do it. And then just knit maybe 5 more centimeters or 2 inches. And maybe I'm also going to do the folded over hem here like I did with my Anker Tee. Let's see. Another issue that is bothering me a bit, and that I do not really know how to fix, probably I'm not going to be able to, since this one is knitted top down, is that it is puckering a bit at the back. I'm also going to put up some clip for you where you can see it. I am not sure why this happened, if this is an issue with the pattern. I don't think so. Or maybe I used a yarn that is just a little bit too stiff. I think with a more drapey yarn this would not look as bad as it does here. We'll see. I'm definitely going to wear this top once it is lengthened and see if this bothers me or not. But overall, I think it is a gorgeous pattern, and I also really like the yarn. I think this is going to be so lovely to wear on hot summer days. I also picked a long-term whip back up again during the summer and continued knitting on it. And if you are a long-term viewer of my videos, you will have probably seen this one before. This is my beloved dress knit that I am making out of Nutiden yarn. So for this pattern I am holding 2 different yarns together. I am, like I mentioned, using Nutiden yarn, so an unspun yarn from the Swedish company Honor och Air. This is the colorway Apostrophe, and I'm holding it together with a silk mohair. This is the tin silk mohair from Sandnes Garn, and the colorway name is 3511. And I love the way those 2 yarns look together. So this is a vintage pattern from the 70s called Open Stripes that I got off of Etsy. I'm going to link the pattern in the description box below for you, along with everything else that I am mentioning in this video. But yeah, I am working on this pattern or on this project for a long time now. I think almost a year. It is slow going for a couple of reasons. One is that I am modifying the pattern quite a bit to fit exactly what I am imagining this dress to be. So one thing that I changed is that I added a section of ribbing here at the waist. So I'm hoping that the dress will cinch in a bit at the waist, and then once I'm done, I think there's maybe like 1 inch or so left, 2.5 centimeters, and then I'm going to continue knitting the lace pattern. And I would also really like to add some pockets to the dress. I'm not really sure how to do that yet, but I'll figure it out. And since this is such an old pattern, I also had to modify the pattern itself quite a bit because it's written in a real strange way, at least one that's not really common in knitting patterns nowadays. But besides that, I am absolutely loving this knit, and I am so looking forward to being able to wear this dress hopefully this winter. I mean, a dress is of course a lot of work, especially at a fine gauge, but I think this is going to be such a stunning piece. And yeah, I'm definitely planning on continue knitting on this during the upcoming fall months. I also went on a bit of a sock knitting kick this summer, and these are all the socks that I finished. Let me walk you through them step by step or sock by sock. So the first pattern that I made is a very simple one, and it's also a free pattern called the I'm So Basic Socks by Summer Lee. So this is a super simple all over stockinette sock knitting pattern with a heel flap and gusset construction. And I was specifically looking for a simple sock pattern because I wanted to see how this yarn would knit up. So this is a skein of yarn that I have dyed myself using natural dyes. The yarn is a sock yarn from Retrosaria Rosa Pomar from Portugal. Their sock yarn base is called Mondim, and I purchased this as an undyed cream colorway and then naturally dyed it myself using logwood, oak galls and cochineal. And I used a specific technique that I have developed myself called the inverse speckling method. And this is how they turned out. And yeah, I'm very happy with how they looked. And then I just wanted to continue knitting a couple more socks for myself. And I made these two pairs also with yarn that I naturally dyed myself. So this yarn is dyed with oak galls. This is the inverse speckling technique as well. I hope the camera is going to pick it up. So there are some very light speckles all throughout this light gray yarn. And this is a yarn that, or socks, that I dyed the yarn with avocados. So they turned into this beautiful dusty shade of pink. By the way, if you would like to give natural yarn dyeing a try yourself, I can only encourage you to give it a try. It is not difficult at all, and it's so much fun and such a wonderful, creative way to make something very special and then knit with it afterwards. That's just a great feeling. So I actually do have a free guide that is walking you step by step through all of the steps of the natural yarn dyeing process. I'm going to put the link in the description box below. And I also have a full online course with lots of different video tutorials teaching you how to create different techniques on yarn, like these inverse speckles, or also like some very simple solid and tonal colorways with a more even color distribution all throughout the yarn. I'm going to link that one in the description box for you as well. So let's move on to those two socks here, because I have not talked about what the patterns are. When I was doing research for another video, one about Australian knitting patterns and knitwear designers, I came across Helen Stewart's Handmade Socks Society. So this is actually a mystery knit along where you get 6 different sock knitting patterns over the course of 6 months, and you get one pattern each month, and you do not know upfront how the pattern is going to look like. And I found Helen Stewart and the Handmade Socks Society, I think in June, and the mystery knit along had already started, so 2 patterns were already out, those 2, and I decided to join in because they look just so lovely. Let me see. So this is the first pattern from the Handmade Socks Society number 6, and it is called the Flourish Socks, with this beautiful lace motif or lace panel that's running down the front of the foot. And the second pair in the Handmade Sock Society number 6 is the Letterpress Socks. So this is a very simple knit pearl texture, but I think it looks very lovely. And both of the patterns have this wonderful simple heel flap and gasset construction that I personally prefer because I think it creates a good fit, at least for my feet. And yeah, I'm so happy with how those turned out. And I am also working on another pair of socks of the Handmade Sock Society, and this is it here. So this pattern, hope you'll be able to tell, it is a bit crunched up here. This is called the Bookbinder Socks, and I am using my naturally dyed yarn again. So this one is dyed with oak galls, onion skins, and cochineal. And this is a speckling technique that I'm using here. And also let me show you how the yarn looks in the ball. I think it turned out so cute, and I love working on this. They are knitting themselves pretty much. Yeah, so this is a very simple cable sock, which I quite enjoy, and there is a fourth pattern out already that I am probably going to cast on next once I'm done with those. And I'm just having so much fun with this mystery knit along. That's actually the very first mystery knit along that I've ever done. I usually do not like to commit to knitting a large shawl or a sweater if I do not know how it's going to look in the end. But for those socks, I think this is such a fun idea, and you have 6 different patterns instead of, just one sweater pattern that you're working on. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going to link everything below if you would like to have a look at the Handmade Sock Society yourself and think about if you want to join in on the fun. I have another new cast on to show you, and this is a very special project because this is my very first hand spun sweater. Let me give you a look at what I've done so far. So as you can see, this one is knitted top down. You start with a provisional cast on and then simply knit down in stockinette stitch. It is going to be a drop shoulder design. This is a pattern by Marjana Kolakcek called Mélanie. And this is a free pattern, which is wonderful, and I think it's so beautiful. It has this double layered collar that is standing up a bit and this beautiful folded hem. I'm not really sure if I'll have enough yarn to do the folded hem. We'll see. Maybe I'll have to do some ribbing instead. But yeah, this is just so enjoyable to knit, and I love the way it is turning out. The yarn that I'm using is my own hand spun, and this is the very first time that I've ever spun a sweater's quantity of hand spun myself. So let me give you a closer look. This is the cake I am knitting on right now. And as you might be able to tell, this is a 2-ply yarn. So I ordered 2 different colorways from Lenka from Woolen Toe, who is a wonderful dyer. She has a great sense of color. I'm going to link her below if you want to check her out. She also sells some hand-dyed yarn, not just fiber, in case you're not a spinner. So I ordered these 2 different colorways, 200 grams of each, and then I spun them up and plied them together, and they created this yarn that is looking a bit like the spin cycle dyed in the wool, if you know that one. So the sweater is looking quite stripy. I was hoping to get a bit more of a mild effect, but I think with the many different colors that were in those braids, this is just the way that it is turning out. But nevertheless, I love it, and I think this is going to be so cozy to wear once it gets a bit colder here. By the way, I am knitting size 2, but I think my gauge is also a bit different. I'm going to link my Ravelry project page for you in the description box in case you would like to have a look. I also have 2 more finished objects that I made for my daughters. I talked about those in the last podcast, and these are 2 sea glass minis by Wool and Pine. So some very cute summer tees. This is one, and this is the other one for my other daughter. I knitted the size 8 to 10 years old. and I love the way they came out. So the Sea Glass series, there's not only the Sea Glass Mini, but also several patterns for adults, from tees to sweaters, cardigans, hats, and I think other accessories as well, is created to use up leftover yarn. And I did use some leftovers, but I also purchased a couple of balls of cotton yarn specifically for this project. I picked them out with my daughters. And yeah, this is how they turned out. The pattern is a 1x1 color work, as you might be able to tell here. Yeah, I think you can see. And it was very enjoyable to knit, and I think they turned out so cute. One thing I did not really like about the pattern was the neckline and how it is constructed. I'm not sure if this pattern is primarily written for the smaller sizes, so this is the second to largest size, and that this would, fit over a baby's head better than it does with a kid. But the neckline, I think you can tell, is quite wide, and at the beginning it was also gaping a lot, to the front, and it just looked weird. And this was such a pity, because I really think this is a very cute design, and my daughter really liked her tee, but it just looked a bit off when she was wearing it. So what I did is that I purchased some elastic thread, and I used a tutorial by, I think, String Things by Mel. I'm going to link it in the description box for you. It's very easy to do. You simply sew it on the inside, and you can tighten the neckline up a bit. I usually do not like to have synthetics in my garments. That's why I make them myself, so that I can use all natural yarns. But the alternative would have been to, not have my daughter wear this piece pretty much at all. So I bit the bullet and I bought the elastic thread, and I think it looks much better now. I'm also going to put up a picture for you so that you can see how it looked before. And I also did the same thing with this tee here. So I think now they look absolutely cute, and yeah, I'm very happy that I made those two for my daughters. And another project that I have been working on over the last couple of weeks is a bag, and this one is actually a crochet pattern. Let me show you. Although it looks super weird right now, it looks a bit like a placemat, I think. I really hope that I did not do anything wrong, and that the sides are going to, naturally face upwards once I continue crocheting. Let me give you a look. So this is the bottom of the bag, and this is the side with this beautiful special stitch. And what's really cool about this project is the yarn that I'm using. So this is actually a yarn that is made out of 100% paper. Let me see if I'll be able to show you. I'm almost out of this ball, so I'll have to get a new one. So the yarn is Nakyang Yarn Dowel, and the colorway name is, let me see, I think 2H2. Yeah, 2H2. I think it is also called Mocha, and I think it looks very cool. It reminds me of these, traditional summer beach bags. And I am not a very experienced crocheter at all, but I definitely wanted to give this bag a try, and I am so happy that I did. I basically have to look everything up, but if there's a YouTube tutorial for everything, so has not really been a problem so far. Hoping that this is going to shape the way that it is supposed to. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this project. The paper yarn, of course, does not have a lot of give, as you might be able to tell. It's not very stretchy, so it is a bit hard on the hands, and I, can only work in it on this bag in very small increments before I have to put it down and work on something else, preferably with a wool yarn. So I am not, having my hands do too much of this crocheting that is too hard for them, so that I avoid getting any pains. I did experience in the past getting some pain in the elbow and also in the wrist, so I'm very careful about that. Did I tell you what pattern I'm using? I think I didn't. So this is the Riviera Bag by Susanne Müller, also known as Paula Strickt. And just to give you a tiny German lesson in case you don't know, Paula strickt basically means Paula knits. So strickt or stricken is knitting in German. So this is everything that I have been working on over the summer, and I am already so looking forward to cast on all the cozy things for fall. I'm probably going to talk more about that in a future video. And in the meantime, if you are already looking for some fall knitting pattern inspiration, I recommend that you have a look at those videos next. See you next time. Happy making. Bye!